Good afternoon. These notes are on surface area, and this should be page 112 of your notebook. So we're going to begin with the review of our vocabulary from the previous video. So some review is a face is a flat surface of a polyhedron. So right here, this rectangle is a face. An edge is a line segment which two faces intersect. So right here, this would be an edge. And then over here is the word vertex, and that is a point where three or more edges intersect. So this point right here. A net is an arrangement of 2D figures that can be folded to form a 3D figure. Then some new vocabulary words that we want to talk about are prisms versus pyramids. So a prism has two identical bases. It's named by the shape of their base, and the side of the prisms are rectangles. A pyramid only has one base. The name of the shape of they're named by the shape of their base, and then the sides of pyramids are triangles. So the two differences here are that prisms have two identical bases, pyramids have one. Rectangles are made to form the sides of prisms, where triangles are made to form the sides of your pyramids. So what we're going to practice right now is we're going to practice using nets to find the surface area. So if we look at this shape, we can automatically tell that it's a cube. And the reason why we can tell that is because this is a square right here, and all the rest of these are identical. So what we're going to want to do is find the area of each of the faces, and then you add them all together. So the area of this face is 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 identical squares. So what I can do is I can do the area of 2 times 2, but then I can multiply that times 6, and that will give me the total surface area. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 6 is 24. So the surface area is 24 inches squared. And notice how I put squared because area is still squared. We'll get into cubes when we get into volume. All right, the next shape, if you look at the base, is a square, and then the sides are triangles, so that is a pyramid. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and find the area of each of those faces. All right, so the shapes that I'm seeing is this base square, so we're going to find that area first, which is a 3 by 3, and that gives me an area of 9. And then I have this triangle here, which is a base of 3 and a height of 4. And I know that a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So base times height divided by 2. 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. But I have 4 identical triangles, so then what I can do with that 6 is multiply that times 4, and that gives me 24. So now I have my 1 square plus my 4 triangles, and then I'm going to add those together to get a total surface area of 33 meters squared. All right. The next shape, if I were to fold this up, and then these two fold up, it would make a triangular prism. And so I've got 3 rectangles and 2 triangles. I'm going to find all of those areas because some of them might be different. So if we look at this triangle, we've got 3 numbers, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Remember, with a triangle, base and height have to be perpendicular. So 3 times 4. So 3 times 4 divided by 2. So my triangle, 3 times 4 divided by 2. But I've got 2 identical triangles, so I can actually multiply this times 2. And if you remember, when I multiply by something, then divide by something, they kind of cancel each other out. So I'm just going to cancel those, and I get an area of 12, and that's for both triangles. And I'm just going to put 2 triangles. And then I've got a rectangle here, and it doesn't give me any numbers, but what I can do is kind of use my information given here to try to find this rectangle. So I know that this is 4, which that's 4, and that's 4, and that's 4. So if this is 4, and this is 4, and this is 4, now I have one of my sides. And then think about it. If I were to fold this net up, it's going to be with this side right here. So if this is 3, then this is also 3. So then we can call that 3. So this rectangle right here is a 4 by 3. Which gives me an area of 12. All right, then I have this rectangle here, which is a 5 by 4. So that gives me 20. And then I have this rectangle here, which has a 4, but I don't know what this is, but I know that when I fold this up, it's going to be with this side right here. So then I know that this is also 4, which actually makes a square, and 4 times 4 gives me 16. So now I have my 2 triangles, a total of 12, my 1 rectangle 12, my 1 rectangle 20, and my other rectangle 16. I'm going to add all this together. So 12 plus 12 plus 20 plus 16. So 24 plus 20 plus 16 gives me a total surface area of 60 inches squared. All right, then what I want you to do is go ahead and try number 4 on your own. And then also try numbers 5 and 6. Now, the next part of our notes is where I actually give you the 3D shape. And what you need to do is we're going to draw the net of the shape. And it's okay if it doesn't look good. So we're going to draw all the, excuse me, draw the net shape, which is all their faces. And then we're going to find all of their areas. And then we're going to add everything together. Okay. So right here, number 7, if you're not good at drawing nets, and remember your net pictures are right here. So if you don't want to draw this, if you'd rather just draw each of the faces, we can do that as well. So if we go over here, my rectangular prism, I know that I have this rectangle right here, 11 by 23. So I'm going to draw that 11 by 23. But how many of those do I have? Well, I have one on the front and I have one on the back. And if you can't see that, I'm going to go ahead and draw a dotted line to kind of show you if you were to kind of make this where you could see through the rectangle. So there's the front and there's the back, and those are identical. So then I'm going to multiply this times 2. Then I've got this rectangle on the bottom, which is a 30 by 11. So then 30 times 11, but I've got 2 of those because I've got one on the bottom and I've got one on the top. And then I've got my side rectangles right here, so a 30 by 23. So 30 by 23, and how I know it's 23 is because of that. So 30 by 23, but then I have 2 of those. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just find each of those areas and double it, area, double it, area, and double it. So 11 times 23 times 2 is 506. 30 times 11 times 2 is 660. And then 30 times 23 times 2 is 1,380. Then I'm going to add all those areas together. And I get a total surface area of 2,546 feet squared. All right. My next shape is a triangular prism, so let's look at that net picture. So a triangular prism looks like this. You've got 1, 2, 3 rectangles and then 2 triangles. So then when we go over back here, we've got our 2 triangles on the front and back. And again, I'm going to make it so that it kind of looks 3D. Or not 3D, I'm going to make it so it looks see-through. So my triangle on the front is identical to the triangle on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my triangle. And my base is 12 and my height is 11, because remember your base and height must be perpendicular. So 12 times 11, but the formula for a triangle is divide by 2. And then I've got 2 of those. So remember, to divide by 2 and then multiply by 2 kind of cancels each other out, so that makes it just 12 times 11. And then I've got this rectangle on the side. So what I'm going to use is this 12, that's right here, and this 13. So that's a rectangle right here, so 12 times 13. And then I've got this base rectangle here, a 12 by 13. And then I've got this side rectangle over here, another 12 by 13. And this doesn't always happen, okay? The only reason why all the rectangles are the same is because this triangle right here is an equilateral triangle, 12 by 12 by 12. So don't get used to just seeing 3 of the same things, okay? So that's why I'm kind of showing you how to do it separately. All right, so 12 times 11 gives me 132. 12 times 13 gives me 156. And that's going to be 156 for each of those. And then what I can do is add my 2 triangles plus my 3 rectangles. Because remember, I had 2 of these triangles. So 132 plus 156 times 3. And I get a total of 600 meters. So 600 meters squared. All right. Let's just do a couple more, and then we're going to move on to cylinders. All right, number 9. This one is different than number 8 because this one is not an equilateral triangle, so we are going to have some more work to do here. So again, if I want to kind of just make it a little see-through, just add my little dotted lines here. Okay, so I've got a triangle on top and a triangle on bottom, so let me go ahead and draw those 2 triangles. I have 2 of them. The base is 14, the height is 7, so 14 times 7 divided by 2, but then I have 2 of those, so times 2. And then remember, divide by 2, multiply by 2, those cancel. All right, then I've got a rectangle on the front, which is a 14 by 10, so 14 by 10. I've got a rectangle on the side, which is a 10 by, well, they don't give you numbers for that, do they? Well, I'm going to have to give you numbers for that because you can't figure this out if you don't have this length over here. So what we're going to do is we will just call this, let's call this 12. And then let's call this 8. Okay. So this rectangle here in the back is a 10 by 12. And then this rectangle on the side is an 8 by 10 because it's 10 high and 8 long. So notice how all of them have 10 in common. That's because all of them have the same height of 10. You just had different widths. All right, now we're going to find the surface area of each of those faces, and then we're going to add them all together. So 98 for the 2 triangles, 140 for the rectangle, 120 for this rectangle, and then 80 for this rectangle. Add all this together, and that will give you your surface area. So 98 plus 140 plus 120 plus 80 gives you a total of 438. So 438 feet squared. All right, so go ahead and try number 10 on your own, and then also try numbers 11 and 12. The last thing I want to teach you in this video is how to find surface area of a cylinder. So surface area of a cylinder is actually a little more complicated than it is for the other shapes. So let's kind of go through the steps. The first thing you're going to do is find the area of the bases, and remember that those are going to be just circles. Okay, and if you look down here at this net picture, it kind of shows you the 2 bases are circles. The second step is you're going to find the lateral surface area, which is the rectangle. So that's kind of like on a Coke can or a soup can. It's the thing that wraps around. And then the length of the rectangle is the circumference of the circle, and the width is the height of the prism. So that's just kind of to help you out. And then you just add those together. So surface area goes like this. If I have 2 circles, area of a circle is pi r squared. But I have 2 of them, so we're going to say 2 pi r squared. And then the area of the rectangle, well, if you think about a rectangle, so I'm going to take a small little sheet of paper. So if you think about this being a cylinder right here, so this is my top circle, this is my bottom circle. If I undo this rectangle, what is this part of the cylinder? If I go around, look, that is the circumference. So the circumference is the length of the rectangle, and then you have the height. So how do you find circumference of a circle? Pi times diameter. And then, so that's the length here, and then the height is just h. And then you add your 2 circles plus your rectangle. So again, this is your 2 circles, and then this is your rectangle. All right, so this first shape, what we're going to do is draw our circle. And so 2 times pi, radius is 11 squared. And the reason why I'm saying 2 is because we have a circle down here, we have a circle down here. And then my rectangle is going to be pi times diameter. Well, if the radius is 11, the diameter is 22. And then times the height, which is 26. All right, so then I just find those 2 numbers and I add them together. So 2 times pi times 11 squared is 759.88. And then pi times 22 times 26 is 1,796.08. And then what I'm going to do is add those 2 together. And I get a total of 2,555.96 inches squared. Okay. We'll do one more together, and then you're going to do the other 2 on your own. I'll leave that one for you to do, and we'll do this one together since this is a net. All right, so let's do number 15. So here are my 2 circles. So 2 times pi times radius squared. So that takes care of my 2 circles. And then my rectangle, remember this length right here, so this guy right here, is the circumference of the circle. So how do you find circumference? Pi times diameter. Well, if my radius is 5, my diameter is 10. And then times the height, which is also 10. All right, so 2 times pi times 5 squared is 157. And pi times 100 is 314. And 157 plus 314 is 471. So if I add those together, I get 471. So 471 centimeters squared. Okay. What I like for you to do is to go ahead and try numbers 14 and 16 on your own. So if you go back through the video notes, you're going to notice you need to do number 4, numbers 5 and 6, number 10, 11 and 12, and then 15 and 16. If you have any questions or comments, just put them at the bottom of the video, and I hope you guys have a great afternoon. Okay, so the answer for number 4 is 102 yards squared, and you can see my work right here. And then numbers 5 and 6 are right here. So I got 189 centimeters squared, and then 52 units squared. And then number 10, I got 494 centimeters squared. And that one I actually was able just to do 7 times 7 times 6 because all of those were the same. Number 11, I got 880 meters squared. And number 12, I got 2,592 meters squared. And then number 14 and 16, for number 14, I got 477.28 centimeters squared. And number 16, I got 2,111.8 meters squared. One thing I do want to point out is that number 11, 17 was not given, so you need to make sure that you write that in. And then that was the only mistake that I saw on this sheet. All right, if I made any mistakes, please let me know. If you have any questions, write them at the bottom of the video. And I hope you guys have a great afternoon.